So, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. And in keeping with the whole Truman Show routine, if I don't see you later, good night. This is Richard Duffy. I am the product evangelist here at Acumatica, and I'm also the Vice President of Partner Strategy and Enablement. It's a real pleasure for me to have the opportunity to host today's session. Some of you have been to some of our previous ISV sessions, ISVs being independent software vendors. These are the folks who add value to the Acumatica solution through their own intellectual property and their solutions. I am taking over this series of sessions from Peter Horton, who's been doing a great job up until now, but I'm now going to be looking after these going forwards. So again, it's a real pleasure for me to have you here, and it's a real pleasure for me to introduce Bill Dean. Bill is going to handle the majority of today's presentation, and please bear in mind that there will be opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of today's session. But if you do have questions during the session, please feel free to type those into the questions pod in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will try to answer those questions as we go along. Today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available through the Acumatica Partner Portal after today's presentation. And we will also, depending on how things go, we will also, and with Bill's permission, we will make that available via YouTube as well. We may need to just edit some specific sections which may be specific for partners. That if we can, if there's content that will help both you as partners and Bill as an ISV get the word out about the solution, then we'll certainly edit that down into some content which we can use for doing some demand generation. So with that, I will be quiet and I will hand across to Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Richard. Again, my name is Bill Dean. I'm a partner at Accounting System Integrators, and a little bit about us. We've been in business since 1991 with over 20 years of experience with ERP software. A little bit about a history of Nonprofit Plus. It started in the Dynamics SL environment. In 2005, we acquired this product and have brought it forward. In 2013, we introduced Nonprofit Plus powered by Acumatica. So with that, Nonprofit Plus is an embedded solution developed with Acumatica tools, and everything about operating Nonprofit Plus is dependent upon Acumatica. So it does not operate by itself, it must have Acumatica. A little bit about our agenda for today. I'm going to be going over why Nonprofit Plus, how to engage, integrated modules, features. We'll have a demonstration, go over some nonprofit opportunities, not-for-profit opportunities, pricing, go over margins, what's on the horizon for us, and then we will also have an opportunity for questions. So with that, why Nonprofit Plus? There's a different functionality that we provide in the product, and that's fund accounting, providing self-balancing with AP and AR control account redistribution. Encumbrance processing, utilizing purchasing to record an obligation at the time of entering an order. The encumbrance ledger activity will be available in the calculation of over budget during any of the data entry screens. Fund management, main goal here is eliminate commingling of cash between restricted and unrestricted cash accounts. And then grant management, track and report grant or funding sources within and beyond organization's fiscal year. In other words, we're talking about the grant life. How to engage, sales at nonprofitplus.net, there as well as our phone number, 203-239-7740. Arrange a discovery call. We can set up a custom presentation and then hopefully into a sale. The integrated modules, we integrate with General Ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable, cash management, purchasing, requisition, and then in the future we're going to be providing integration with expense claims, which is our expense reports, time cards, and project management. Now another module that is not included in our slide, tax management, we do integrate with this, providing taxes as well as VAT taxes. Okay, features. Fund accounting, as mentioned, self-balancing funds, AP and AR control account redistribution, and automatic due-to/due-from entries. And we're going to be providing some opportunity to see what that looks like within Acumatica. Encumbrance processing, appropriations, maintain encumbrance ledger through the use of purchase orders, automatic update to ledger upon saving of the data entry, automatic transfer to actual ledger upon posting within general ledger. So we're going to start within the purchasing module. It'll go through accounts payable. Once that activity has been released and updated into general ledger, we then transfer from the encumbrance ledger into the actual ledger. And then available for financial reporting. So you'll have the availability to report on the actual plus encumbered, which would be your total committed dollars at that point, and then compared to your budget for availability. Additional is realized enhancements, enhanced focus on budgets. This is on a line-by-line basis within our data entry screens for non-grant situations, able to report differences to a period-to-date, year-to-date, or year-to-date total budget. And then with grants, according to the grant life, a comparison to grant-to-date amount or total grant amount comparison. And then fund management. This is where we're going to be defining the funds, restricted or unrestricted. We can also define accounts and sub-accounts that will be available for use for this fund within data entry screens. We can also define the AP and AR control account by fund specific. It's not required. And then as well, this is where we are able to specify the specific cash accounts that are available by fund. Grant management, where we're going to be defining the grant life, the time period within or matching organization's fiscal year, or the time period can be outside or beyond the fiscal year. So in our example, we're going to be looking at a grant that is greater than 12 months. We can develop and maintain budgets, manage grant sponsors or benefactors, all depending upon if you're the grantee or grantor, with contacts. Inquiry of grant amounts with drill down to details, dashboards for graphical presentation of the data, reporting and track actual, encumbered, and budget amounts. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into our presentation. You'll notice here that we just have a couple dashboards created, and that you can see based upon the grant information and then our table that we've got. So here's our actual encumbered comparison to budget to come up with an available budget amount. So the first place I'd like to start is to go into the purchasing module to go over the encumbrance portion. So I'm going to go to distribution into purchasing and go ahead and bring up an existing order here. While this is coming up, we'll be able to show the different ways of being able to enter that information. So I'm going to bring up this, and you notice that here's the different line items. And just give you a little bit of history about this this particular setup. We have a sub-account that is 6 characters, 3 segments. The first segment is the fund, the second is the grant, and then the third is the department. And as you know, within Acumatica, you can set up your sub-accounts any way that you'd like, and we just in setup tell it which segment to use for the appropriate designation. So here we have a beginning of a purchase order, and the first thing that I would like to do is acknowledge this funds available button. So when I select that, what it's going to do, it's going to show us about the activity for this particular account sub-account combination. Now this is a non-grant, so therefore we're looking at the period to date, year to date, and then year to date total budget scenario. So this is available for budget checking. So when during data entry, if a message comes up, then you can come in here and see what's going on with that. So I'm going to go down here and just enter something real quick. But before I do that, I'm going to go back here. You'll notice that for our grant 21, we have an encumbered amount of 1627. So I'm going to go ahead and add a line item for that. Now in setup, we have the availability of deciding when we're going to be updating that encumbrance ledger. So I'm just going to quickly enter in something here and move over to our account. I'm going to go with a different account number. Here's where it's going to tell us, are you sure you want to proceed, because we're in an over budget situation. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm actually going to select one related to our grant. And when we tab over it, so now when I save and go back and I'm going to refresh, you'll notice that this information is going to be updating into the ledger automatically. It's something that a lot of our processing is done behind the scenes. So you'll see that it went up by about $50. Okay. As you know, also, we're able to add files and notes to our purchase orders for additional information. So now if we move into our accounts payable module, I just want to show how the information processes through for the fund accounting portion. In our financial details, I really like the way Acumatica has presented this and made this available. Our batch number can come up. So I'll go ahead and select an existing accounts payable bill that was entered and processed. I'm going to go into our journal entry, and to just show what the journal entry looks like for redistribution. So we can see that here's our distribution entry coming from accounts payable. Here's our sub-account, which crosses over multiple funds, and therefore that's going to cause a redistribution in order to keep our funds in balance. So here's our 10-20-30. We're wiping out the original journal entry and then redistributing to the appropriate fund. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go over to reports. I'm going to open up another tab and go to reports so we can see what one of the reporting would look like for accounts payable by fund. So I'll pick up our AP aged past due by fund, and waiting for this to come up. And I'm just going to go into filter, add a filter for that specific reference number. If you recall, it was 00104. And when I present the report, you'll notice that for Fund 10-20-30, it has its appropriate amount available to it. So 104 distributing into the fund that it's applicable to. So therefore, we're keeping track of the control account as well as in a reporting environment in our subsidiary ledger. By fund, we can get our accounts payable amounts. Okay, moving back into our accounts payable module, want to go into another reference number, and we'll pick up, I think 113. This one has not been processed. It's on hold. And so here you recall that we saw a funds available for a non-grant, and now I'm going to show you a grant item. So this particular item, here's our budget, and it comes down here. Here's how much has been posted into general ledger, the encumbered, what's been unposted, and then this particular transaction, which is causing actually an over budget for this direct account sub-account combination. But if we decide to choose our total grant, so it doesn't matter how we're distributing those amounts within the grant, we can do our budget checking based upon the whole grant. So in that scenario, then we actually do have available budget for this particular line item. And this is all set up within our configuration of how we're going to be tracking our grant versus the budget. Okay, so once we have a check and that's been processed, we want to take a look at what that journal entry is going to look like. So I do have this check that has been processed. We can see our application of that in our financial details. We can pull up our batch number, which represents our journal entry. And again, we can see our redistribution. So here's our actual journal entry that gets recorded for this cash and accounts payable offsetting that. Here's our redistribution, which is backing it back out of each fund. So here's our journal entry backing out. Here's it coming out of accounts payable for the accounts payable account by fund. And then here's our due to, due from. So once cash has been exchanged, then because Fund 10 paid 20's obligation as well as paid 30's obligation, we have a due to, due from, which states that 20 owes 10 money and then 30 owes 10 money. So that's how the journal entry takes place. And you'll notice that in a number of systems that are out there, they'll go ahead and do the due to, due from, but they're not doing the redistribution by the control account. So I just want to make that point that out at this point. Okay, now that we've gone over the whole accounts payable process and what that journal entry actually looks like, I'd like to move into our fund maintenance and grant maintenance, just so you can take a look at the kind of information that it takes to start up and define a fund. So here's our 20 fund. It's a temporary restricted fund by definition based upon the type that we've selected. And here's where we can define our accounts that are going to be associated to this particular fund, as well as the sub-accounts. So here's where we keep track of that information. And then if we'd like to, we can assign a control account by fund. These are not required, but these fields are available to every time a fund is distributed, then this is the account and sub-account that's going to be used for that. And then here's where we define our cash account by fund. And we just happen to have one here, but as you can see, it's in grid mode, so we can hold a number of different cash accounts. For our grants, grant maintenance, I'm going to select one that's already been set up. The primary or the focus that I'd like to make is on the time frame of the grant. So we're going to start here in 2010 and we're going to end in 2015. So you can see that based upon the periods that we're crossing over multiple years of the organization. It's actually covering a 59-month span. And we're keeping track of all of that information within that time frame to give you our grant to date information. Down below here we have a number of tab options for budgeting. Here we're going to be entering in our budget, and then we generate the budget into the general ledger history table. Our sponsors can be listed here with not only their name, address, information, but also the amount of dollars that they're committing to it. Here's where we're going to put in, or actually the system will update the amount that we've billed to them, and then the amount of money that we've actually received so far. And we can have multiple sponsors within a grant, and you just add and list them in there. We have contacts that are available for each sponsor, as well as schedule and payments by sponsor as well. Okay, like to just go into some of our inquiry screens. Here's our grant summary, and it's going to come up with, this is our grant to life information. So here's our actual column, encumbrance, the total of the two compared to budget. So this is a presenting of a summary high view of where the grant is at that particular point in time. And then we have our grant by account, and I'll go ahead and select 21, and here's all of the information related to this by account. And then our grant details, we can go into there and see activity that's going on within a particular fund, as well as a particular grant. So I'm going to back this up so we can capture some data, so we can see some data that's coming in. So we're going to pick up all of this activity based upon the fund. We can also pick a grant, and it would refine that information. We can also refine by particular segment within the sub-account. This gives us greater flexibility for reporting, for analysis, and just diving in to the details. And if you're not aware, there is filtering, and I have a number of different options here. This is an excellent way to be able to hone in on exactly what you're looking for. I've been on demonstrations where a particular individual is looking for specific data related to maybe something I want everything that begins with test, right? I want everything that contains test. So here's our contains, so it's going to go out there and look for anything with a particular value in it. Okay, and again, we can pick out any which one, and it filters out based upon that. So we've expanded the details capability within Acumatica for the details going in and getting that information. Okay, last is our reporting, and you can see that there's a number of different reports that are available. We have our trial balance by fund details. Then we have our grant trial balance and so forth, encumbered kind of information. We've already taken a look at the accounts payable. Here's our accounts receivable, and then financial statements. They're very easy to set up for balance sheet and expenditure reports by fund. So that's it for the demonstration. I'm going to move back into our PowerPoint to complete this. Next is our nonprofit plus opportunities. So these are a list of a number of nonprofits that we believe are good candidates for our product. And a couple things that if you don't see what you're after in this list, if the organization is in need of fund accounting, we're a good possible solution for them. Also interested in tracking encumbrances. Does the organization have restricted funds, and do they need to manage them? And also, if they're managing grants or other funding sources and require accountability reporting or other information related to a grant. Some additional information about nonprofits. This is a United States look, but there's approximately or over 1.8 million nonprofits in the U.S. It's interesting how the top 5 states with over 100,000 nonprofits are listed here, California through Pennsylvania. But then we also have other states that have a number of nonprofits as well. Like, for example, if we look at Alabama, and they have 29,000 nonprofits available to it. It's not exactly a state that you'd think that would be heavy nonprofits, but it certainly does provide us an opportunity to look at possibilities there for nonprofits. Of the 1.8 million, there are over 40,000 with revenues over 1 million, and revenues over 10 million, there are 10,000. So what about all of those smaller ones that are less than 1 million that may not fit into the pricing structure of Acumatica? And a little later we're going to have a slide where I believe that we're going to be able to provide a solution for even the smaller nonprofits. Okay, so a little bit about pricing. Our pricing structure is the same as fixed assets. So when you go to that pricing spreadsheet, if whatever fixed assets is, that's where we fall into place. Module requirements is the financial modules, and then optional modules that we can work with, again, are the project distribution and CRM. As far as margins, we follow the gold and the silver. Exams or without exams, different percentages. At this point, because we are in the process of getting a certification online, up to that point, then everybody would be available for. If you're gold, you'd be receiving a 40% margin. If you're silver, you'll be receiving a 30% margin. What's on the horizon? We are actively looking into an online payroll and HR integration with Acumatica. This would be integrated with the employees, time cards, and then pushing the journal entry into Acumatica. Now you're going to ask yourself, well, what's the difference between this and what additional payroll module that's going to be offered within Acumatica? The difference is that this is actually online payroll. So you get the benefits of entering all of that data in Acumatica, but the processing of the payroll as well as reporting on a monthly basis and making deposits is being done by the payroll service. Another area we're looking at is donor management, and then also municipalities for tax billing, utility billing, permit tracking. And then our last that we would like to provide, hopefully by year end, is a per user pricing for small nonprofits. And this is, I think, can be a really interesting opportunity for where nonprofits that are smaller, which can't afford the price tag of even the entry level of Acumatica, we believe our pricing will be able to go a little bit lower with activity of let's say $500,000 or even $750,000 a year. Our pricing should start out around the $300 a month, which would be $3,600 a year. This would be for 2 users. Again, this is in an infancy, so the pricing may change, but that's around what we're thinking about. So I'd definitely be interested in your thoughts of what you think about this, as well as what you think would be a good price point to be at. Okay, and with that, here's our contact information, our website, and I just open it up for questions.
Fantastic. So thanks for that, Bill. A very comprehensive overview of exactly what you have to offer. And we do have some questions online right now. So just bear with me. Now, Bill, are you able to see the questions, or is it easier if I just read them out to you?
Yeah, it doesn't look like I can see any questions.
Okay, all right. So why don't I read them out to you? So the first question is, can you group accounts to share a specific amount? In other words, all the auto expenses, say 5 numbers using a budget recorded to an account automatically?
So, so you have multiple accounts which represent, like, say, for example, auto, or is there a single auto account and we're talking about multiple sub-accounts?
Okay, we'll just
I mean,
wait. We'll just wait for the questioner to give us that
I mean,
additional information.
either one would be supported. You could use the account class to be able to classify it there as auto expense, and then utilize that kind of functionality, unless I'm missing the boat.
Okay, we'll just wait for the person who asked the question to let us know if that answers the question. So let's move on to the next one. Can you handle associations?
Well, the thing about associations is that they manage. It depends upon the functionality. From the functionality of a nonprofit management, yes, we can. If we're talking about managing the association members, we could, but it would require some additional customization. But we would certainly like to talk to you about that specific functionality. It's actually a great time to talk about the fact that if there's a niche in a nonprofit segment that you believe is a great fit for Acumatica and Nonprofit Plus, we'd be glad to talk to you and add that specific functionality so we can go after that niche.
Fantastic. So that question came from Ernie Trujillo. So Ernie, if you would like to reach out directly to Bill after the session today and have a discussion, I think Bill would be more than happy to talk with you by the sound of it. Now, Bill, just a couple of extra pieces of information about the previous question, and that was coming from Maggie Tyner. Maggie was asking about the concept of multiple sub-accounts being able to summarize up to a parent budget.
Yeah, Rich, you're a little light on the. I'm having difficulty hearing you.
My apologies. Let me. Is that any better?
Yes, much better.
Always helps if you take your arm off the microphone, I guess. Sorry about that. So the previous question came from Maggie Tyner, and she's just added some additional information. She was referring to multiple sub-accounts, being able to summarize up to a parent budget.
Within the reporting, you definitely be able to do that. If you'll notice on our grant by account, our fund by account does the same exact thing where it summarizes up by account. So all sub-accounts related to that account would summarize up to that account for the inquiry.
Perfect. Okay, super. And again, if we haven't quite answered the question exactly the way that you would like it as we go through this Q&A, don't forget, you do have on your screen right now, you do have the email address there and the phone number to get hold of Bill. So the next question comes from Michael Lupro, and Michael's asking, can you report on a cash basis or on an accrual basis, or purely on accruals?
Yeah, our product follows exactly what Acumatica is, and that is the accrual basis of accounting. It's kind of interesting that you bring up the possibility of cash. We have done that. Actually, in Dynamics SL, if that appears to be something that people need, where they actually need to be able to have both forms of keeping track of the accounting basis, then that could be something that we actually start including.
Fantastic. All right, great. So now more of a general question. Ernie Trujillo has also asked, is there a recording of this webinar? And Ernie, yes, the recording will be made available probably about an hour or so after we actually finish. I just have to do a little bit of admin to get it uploaded into the system, and then we'll share a link for you. But of course, this and all of our other ISV sessions are available from the Acumatica Partner Portal at partner.acumatica.com. So please feel free to go and visit that site. It takes a little bit longer for us to get it just up there on that site, but certainly the core webinar replay will be available, and I'll share that with you. Okay, some kudos for you there, Bill. Someone has said that it's a very nice presentation. So that's a good thing. So thank you for that. Thank you for presenting a quality presentation for partners. One other question that's come in is, it's not related to per user pricing, but is the standard product set with unlimited users like Acumatica?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
we're an embedded product, so therefore all of the inherent qualities or functionality is still Acumatica.
Fantastic. So again, that's the advantage, and anybody who might be on this session who has a solution maybe for a different target market, we would love to have a conversation with you if you believe you have a solution which might fit that particular target market. And the person to contact at Acumatica about that is Christian Lindberg. And you can, or you can, of course, you can reach out to me, Richard Duffy, and my email address is rduffy at acumatica.com. So with that, Bill, I think your presentation was very comprehensive and certainly covered all the things that I was interested in learning about how you handle the not-for-profit sector. I would certainly love to have a further conversation with you about looking at how we can go out and do some demand generation together with you into that segment, because based on the map that you showed with the potential market size, it certainly looks like it might be an attractive market to go after. And any of our partners who are on today's session or watching this recording from the partner portal, if that's an area that you're interested in looking at, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Bill, and we can talk about how we can do those things. Because obviously, if Acumatica, you as a partner, and Bill and his team at ASI get together and execute a marketing campaign to generate some demand together, I think there's opportunities there to do a lot more together than we can separately. Bill, do you have any closing comments that you'd like to make?
Just that I appreciate you being a part of the presentation today, and if you do have any further questions, feel free to reach out, as well as I would be interested in your thoughts about what we do have on the horizon. If anything looks interesting, I would be certainly interested in your thoughts.
Okay, cool. And again, your full company name, because I then use a 3-letter acronym. ASI stands for?
Accounting System Integrators.
Accounting System Integrators. So there you go, Michael. Sorry for throwing that acronym in there. My bad. But with that, I would like to thank everybody for joining us in today's presentation. We look forward to seeing you in the next one of our series of independent software vendor or solution partner presentations. And so at this time, you may now disconnect from the session. Thank you.